Well, the only way I played guilty was because they said that he said, she said it holds an 85% of sentencing in the in trial. So I had an 85% of losing the case because I have raised two of my nieces and I never disrespected them. You know, and right now they're grown women. One has two kids. The other one works for, I think, AT&T.
And we are about to watch the parole hearing for a man who shows up to his parole hearing and denies ever committing the offense against the 9-year-old girl, 9 until the age of 12. As a matter of fact, if you can imagine that a man will do this, and then he takes a plea deal, an Alfred plea, while he was facing up to over 25 years in prison. Then he shows up to parole. Now remember, he was only accused of this on June 8th of 2022. And here he is up for parole, February 2025. He got just a 5-year sentence. Now, will the parole board hold him to the fire for denying that the crime ever happened? Will the parole board hold him accountable for insisting till this day that the victim, that the survivor, made it all up? We'll just have to find out. And with that, let's jump in.
Robert Sanchez, 241157.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Roberto Sanches, 241157. He is serving a sentence of 20 years, executed suspended after serving 5 years, followed by 10 years probation for illegal sexual contact, victim less than 13 years old, and sexual assault fourth after more than 2 years older, victim less than 13 years old. The offender is to remain on the sex offender registry for 10 years. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of March 11th, 2024. There is victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows he has completed the short track sex offender program and tier 2. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score falls within the moderate range of risk for recidivism. Utilizing the static 99R, the offender's overall score for sexual offense recidivism falls within the low range. Mr. Sanchez, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
Wow. I had done all the programs that I have been told to do. I would like to have an opportunity once more, so like that I can help my mom. And I don't know what to expect from parole because I've never been on parole. So I'm willing to do what I have to as soon as if I get it. You know, I'm almost on my way out. And if I could get out sooner, if I could start my life all over again for the, I will be happy and grateful if I could give me the opportunity.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sanchez. So what we're going to do is we've read your background,
Yes.
What's brought you to this incarceration, what you've done since you've been in, your plans that you've discussed with the parole officer that did your interview. I'm going to ask you some questions based upon that. We're then going to hear from the Office of Victim Services, and then we're going to discuss your case and give you a decision, okay?
Okay.
So we're going to start questions today with Board Member Smith Palmieri.
Okay.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Sanchez.
Good morning.
So as I was listening to your opening statement, I did hear that you want to get on with your life and that you've done the programs that you've needed to do. So you're before us today for an illegal sexual contact with a victim that's under 13 years of age. And you deny that this contact occurred?
Yes, I deny it.
You deny all of it?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So the report that there was contact at least 10 times over a 3-year period, you disagree with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you pled under the Alford Doctrine, and so you must have agreed with something. There were things you didn't agree with and things you did agree with. So what did you agree to that prompted you to plead guilty?
Well, the only way I played guilty was because they said that he said, she said, it holds an 85% of sentencing in the in trial. So I had an 85% of losing the case. That's why I had plead guilty, because I don't want to do a massive sentence for something I didn't do. So they went, because due to my record, they off, because I wasn't willing to do 27 years for something I didn't do if I lose the trial. So I had no other choice to plead guilty to a crime that I didn't commit. It's not the first time, because I already went through it due to a domestic that happened with Maribel. So I ended up getting a 2-year sentence, two and a half year sentence in Manchester for a domestic that never happened. So I already knew was, this, how you say it, is a guilt. You're guilty until you prove yourself innocent instead of being the backwards.
Okay, so
that's what,
I'm hearing that you felt like you had no choice
yes, ma'am.
and you were backed into a corner. I mean, you have been through the courts, as you said. You do have a criminal history. You have a number of violation of probations. Let's talk about the treatment that you've completed. So I read in the summary from the sex offender treatment that you reflected on your poor choices that led to your negative consequences. When you say you reflected on your poor choices, what do you see as your poor choices?
Getting back with her when I already had separated. I was already advised that I shouldn't go back, that I should continue my life. It's going to continue. And I gave it the benefit of the doubt, and I'm back into prison. Because we used to have a lot of arguments. And she used to call the cops constantly.
So the choices that you focused on in that group setting was that you returned to living with the mother of the victim.
Yes.
Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Any poor choices related to how, when you reflect on the relationship within the household, are there any poor choices you think, things you could have avoided?
Well, I didn't do nothing wrong to the house, I provide the best I could. I worked, I provide for the house, I help them, I help her get them, raise them, because she also has 2 older sons. I mean, 2 sons, the 2 youngest ones. And I never had problems. Yes, we had arguments and all that, but nothing major.
I did read that you were involved as a stepfather would, engage with the children. But I'm thinking more about relationships. I did read that you were an integral part of providing stability in the house financially through work and your presence. But what about emotional relationships? Can you reflect back and think of maybe where things could have you have done something differently?
Well, they were majority in their rooms. So other than relationship wise, is they'll come and ask for advice. I used to give it to them. Other will help with their homework, Other than that, I never, got into too involved, because I was majority either working or come home and work on cars. So it was They was always in their room while they're playing PlayStation.
Okay.
That's the most I could tell you.
So you're saying that you didn't really have an overly emotional connection to the young people in the home?
No, not like that.
Okay. All right. So how do you think the victim feels?
I don't know. You know, I was accused of a crime that I didn't commit. I know that. And I asked myself what made her come to this conclusion. You know, because they said that this was happening since 2018. I wasn't living with them in 2018. You know, I came in again to the house for Christmas in 2018 because they wanted to see me. That's how we got back together. Then I was there to 2019 of Thanksgiving. Then we got separated again. Then I was out of the house for it. That's when I got accused of this.
Well, you know, I hear that you dispute that the sexual assault occurred. There is very detailed information about it, which always, you know, presents an interesting thought of how does the victim come up with so much detail if it didn't happen?
I don't know what to say, man. Honestly, I don't.
So talk to me a little bit more about the sex offender treatment program. When you go into a program like that and you deny that the offense occurred, how is it that you participate in it? Tell me how that worked for you.
Well, I listened to the stories that the people were saying, you know, the discussions, what they were about. And when she asked me, I was like, I don't know how to answer a question because I didn't know the response to it, but I understand what the class was about, you know, and I would try to do my best not to lead myself to something like that because I have raised two of my nieces and I never disrespected them, you know, and right now they're grown women. One has two kids. The other one works for, I think, AT&T.
So you did the program. So
It's
what
hard.
I'm hearing, it is hard when you're. I guess I'm wondering when you're participating in the treatment and you talk about, you know, you're listening to maybe how to avoid finding yourself in this situation in the future.
Yes.
Which leads me to when you conclude the sex offender treatment program at the facility, I read that you develop a relapse plan where you identify your risks and ways to avoid them in the community. Is that something that you did for yourself?
I understand. I don't understand.
So when you're finishing the program, right, when you're getting towards the end, we read that all the participants develop a plan for being in the community, right?
Yes.
That you don't find yourself in another situation that you could be charged with these offenses again, right? How to avoid these situations. And what did you develop for yourself?
Well, so far, I got that, you know, I got a job as soon as I get out, you know, and I'm trying to start my own business. And on top of it, I'm gonna be helping my mom when I get out. So I will be basically all occupied and dealing with the programs that I be given by y'all. So I won't have no opportunity to committing a crime like this. And I don't even think about making a crime like this because it's not in me.
Okay, so how do you avoid putting yourself in a situation? Because now that you're convicted, of these charges. And you
Yes,
know that you have to be on the sex offender registry for 10 years.
yes, ma'am.
You'll basically, be monitored very closely.
Yes.
So what is your plan to avoid any perception of, that you could be charged with anything like this in the future? Or your behaviors could be misinterpreted? What is your plan for that?
Right now, the only thing answer I got is apply by the rules and that y'all give me, and do the best I can, because I got family members and they're gonna be around me. The ones that are helping me. I never lost, nobody turned their back on me. They're all there. I got 2 nephews that they into cars, So that's another part that it hurts because I don't know how to deal with it. This is my first time going through this. So I don't know what to expect.
All right. Well, so I'm going to go back to, you brought up the fact that you have been on probation before, you pled guilty to other offenses. And then I mentioned to you, you have a number of violation of probations where you were on probation, either got arrested again or did something that didn't comply with the conditions. So
No,
how do you think?
I was young, and the violations of probation that you're saying is possession of narcotics. And the violation was because I had a dirty urine. Because I smoke pot.
Okay, but that's a violation of probation.
Yes, that was the violations.
All right.
But
So
I was young.
Well,
I was young. Yes, I was young. I'm about to be 49 years old. I had matured from that. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. It's like I spoke to Ms. Logan.
35 tonight, yeah.
No. So I'm doing some quick math, Mr. Sanchez. And when you had those violations of probation, you were in your mid-30s. So, from our perspective, that's not young. Young is 18, 19, early 20s. So being in your 30s and choosing to make a conscious choice to violate your probation is concerning for us.
Okay.
Because when you go out to this probation, it'll be a much higher level of supervision because of the charges.
I was smoking pot at that time. I don't smoke. Before I got locked up, I had stopped. Because that's where the violation came from smoking pot, dirty urine. And I had stopped way before I got sentenced on this one.
Okay.
So I know I could accomplish this one. And before I got locked up, I was on a probation for the domestic. And I completed all that. And I had a restraining order and I completed that. I'm trying to better myself. I don't want to keep making the same mistake. So I'm trying to push myself to a better person. I know I didn't commit this crime. So I have to make the better out of it. It's not like I'm gonna keep making the same mistakes. So to better myself, I gotta do better and apply by rules. Because right now I know I'm gonna be supervised. And I know I don't want to come back in here. I just lost my father in this sentence. I had no opportunity to pay my respect. My mom is almost in the same age. She's almost 70. So I'm not planning to lose her when I'm incarcerated. And I know my freedom lays in your hand. So I have no other choice but apply by the rules.
Okay.
That's the only thing I have.
You understand and the requirements of being on the sex offender registry?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm sure you've thought about being on probation. Have you thought about what some of the conditions of your probation would be?
No, I don't know. Because I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that, for charges such as yours, you would be required to do problem sexual behavior treatment again in the community.
Okay.
You will be prohibited from being around minors without permission of the parole officer.
Okay.
So you'll, as you said, you'll have a lot to think about in terms of complying with the rules.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mr. Sanchez, thank you. I have no other questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely. Board members, Aposesu, any questions?
Do not.
Okay. At this point, Mr. Sanchez, your portion of the hearing is over, so you just sit there and listen. No more speaking.
Okay.
Ms. Hamlet Williams, could you help us with victim input, please?
Yes, thank you, Sir Chair. Good morning. I do have a statement from the grandmother of the victim, and it reads, "To whom it may concern, I disagree with Roberto Sanches being approved for early release due to the damage he has caused my granddaughter due to the molestation, physical abuse, and mental abuse. My granddaughter currently attends therapy on a weekly basis because she has suicidal episodes, nightmares, and she relives her trauma on a daily basis. My granddaughter currently doesn't feel safe, and I know it will take time for her to heal. She was working part-time and had to quit, being that she felt that she was being followed and constantly watched by Roberto Sanches. Not only has he done damage to her, but he has also caused mental and emotional damage to myself. 5 years is not enough time for the crime that he has committed. I plead you to have Roberto Sanches fulfill his 5-year sentence as stated when he was originally sentenced. Sincerely, grandmother of the victim." Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hamlet Williams. Board member Smith Palmieri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it's a difficult case because Mr. Sanchez, although he pled guilty, albeit under the Alfred doctrine, did plead guilty. Yet he sits before us today denying his involvement in the assault of the minor. He's 48 years old. Thank you. He has done the programs. He has no history of these types of crimes.
Right.
No history. He does have a history of possession of narcotics. He does have a history of sale, operating in suspension, but nothing of a violent nature. And I don't have the circumstances that is violent. There is a protective order for the victim until 2099. He had requirements at the facility to participate in the sex offender treatment program and the Tier 2 program, an addiction services program. He did both of those programs, satisfying all those two requirements. You know, it's hard to understand what he actually learned from the sex offender treatment program if he denies the offense, but he did get a favorable report from the treatment provider that he did participate, that he did his homework, that he engaged in conversation, he engaged in group discussions and developed a relapse plan. I do have the sense from him today that he does have a plan to avoid any types of behaviors in the future that might place him in these situations again. He has support in the community. He has an opportunity for employment. He scores moderate risk overall for reoffending. And in terms of the sex offender treatment assessment, he does score low for risk of recidivation. He is past his parole eligibility date and would have not a lengthy period of time on parole. I also wanted, in situations where individuals deny the offense or partially deny the offense, we know that in addition to having to continue with sex offender treatment in the community, he'll be required to participate in a credibility assessment. So in Mr. Sanchez's case, it's my understanding that'll happen pretty quickly when he starts treatment, and will address his denials.
Right.
And any other behaviors related to these charges, and that it will all be addressed appropriately in treatment. He has 10 years of probation on this case. He has 10 years on the sex offender registry. And as I said earlier, there's a protective order in place for the victim, which in terms of the grandmother's statement, the protective order would provide that level of, I would hope, safety and security for the victim in this matter. We're not here to retry the case.
Right.
We're here to look at Mr. Sanchez's charges and what he's done to address his risk factors, which he has done through both types of treatment, through the TIER program and the sex offender treatment program. There's also an indication that he worked a bit while he was in one of the other facilities. I do think that Mr. Sanchez is presented to be suitable for parole supervision today based on the documents that we had for review. I do appreciate the victim's grandmother coming forward, providing the information. I think it's important that the victim remains in treatment and seems to have support herself. So I think that's a positive piece to that. So for today, I would find Mr. Sanchez suitable for discussion.
Thank you, Board Member Smith-Palmieri. A couple of things that I wanted to point out here is he has been on community release and parole in the past and finished it successfully. It was 10 years ago. And since January of 2015, outside of the current offense, which is a terrible one, the only thing that he has had in the community has been motor vehicle types of offenses. And I think it's really important for him to engage in treatment in the community. And when you said he's past his parole date, he's a year almost past his parole date. So I would also be in support of his parole today.
Yeah, well, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ms. Sassy, Zappo, but I regardless of whether he's passed his parole or not, our determination is for suitability.
Absolutely.
Right? I just mentioned when we're talking about how long he'll be on community release, parole community release. That's all.
Right.
Thank you.
No, absolutely.
I agree with her assessment.
All right. I have halfway house placement, problem sexual behavior treatment, no contact with minors, no contact with victims, JRMC.
I had nothing else.
Anything? Okay. Regarding Roberto Sanchez 241157, moves grant parole enter after February 28, 2025, with the following stipulations that will apply to his discretionary parole. Halfway house placement if necessary, problem sexual behavior treatment, no contact with minors without parole officer's permission, no contact with victim, initials JR or MC. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Mr. Sanchez, you've been voted to parole, and your stipulations and how you'll proceed with treatment from here will be explained to you prior to your release. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
This concludes the parole hearing for Roberto Sanchez, 241157. You're all set, Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you. Have a good
We'll get all your
day.
paperwork next week.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
How is that justice? What did we just watch? Are you kidding me? You have a monster. You have a monster that takes the Alfred plea, but there is a child that he literally SA'd. He gets a plea deal. He shows up to the parole board. He says, "I am innocent. She made it up. The only other time I was in prison too, she also made it up," according to the DV. When the parole board saying he doesn't have violent crimes, well, he's in for DV. What is that? And then they reward him with parole. Why? This has butterfly effects. This is a rip to do this to the survivor who had the courage to go and say, "This man was doing this to me," and then they give him a little 5-year Alfred plea, and then at his parole hearing, he denies it. He calls her a liar, and they reward him. Make that make sense. It's like this parole board, they simply do not care. Let me read to you the information because they don't go through it. They act like this doesn't exist. It exists. It happened. Man accused of molesting a woman denies it. He's still denying it till this day. This was written June 8, 2022. The parole hearing happened February 2025. Can you imagine from being accused to taking a guilty plea to then getting paroled is like, what, 2 years? Oh my God. It just, doing these parole hearings makes you feel like you're going crazy. A Hartford man is facing charges that he did this to mention from the age of 9 till 12. Can you imagine 3 years doing this? 9 till 12. Forget the insult that he only has to register for 10 years, that he got to do plea, but then they parole him. He denied the accusations to police according to an affidavit. Sanches has been in jail for the year since his arrest, being held on $200,000 bond, while facing 4 counts of first-degree SA and a single count of risk of injury to the child. He is due in The first-degree SA charges carry up to 25 years in prison with a 10-year mandatory minimum for any assault that occurred before the girl turned 10. And a 5-year mandatory minimum for assaults when she was 10 to 12. The girl's accusations were reported to police in March 2021, and she said the last incident of abuse occurred November 2020. Her guardian told police that the girl had recently feared she was pregnant and that she had been in therapy for about a year. The girl said during an electronically recorded interview that Sanches would use gifts to manipulate her. She said she enjoyed play fighting, but added that Sanches would often use it as a prelude to SA. She said Sanches made her promise not to tell. Online court records show, here it is, that Sanches was accused of violating a family violence protective order and subsequently pled guilty to 2.5 years. And that also he was innocent of, remember? I'm innocent of it. And this parole board member, these clowns, she's like, "I see no violence in his record. He's really not a risk to society. He really, except for this last offense, hasn't done anything." It's like, for 3 years! From 9 till 12. Why? Why does this enrage us? But the parole board has the audacity, it's the insanity to just talk their way into releasing someone who already only got a little tiny sentence. It makes no sense. The grandmother gets up there and she just like hello, like parole, and they don't hold him to the fire. They don't say you are guilty. We see this in Louisiana. That's the respect you can have for Louisiana parole board. They say why did you take a plea deal? I would never. We've heard them say it. I wouldn't take a plea deal for something like that if I didn't do it. Well, he starts making up numbers. Oh yeah, they say that you get like an 80% conviction rate. No, you BS. There's a reason they give these plea deals. It's because they don't take you to trial. And if you're innocent, you do not plead guilty to a crime like that. Madness. and I just can't. They don't hold him to the fire. They don't make him pay. They don't at least punish him and send a message to the survivor who surely is listening that she did not make it up. She bravely stood up and locked you up. Probably others should have done the same. When I found out that he says, I was a father to my nieces, that just sent a shiver down my spine. How many victims might he have? He was like a father figure to her. That we can just see the obvious in the parole board. Not only do they not see the obvious, which is just insane that they're put in charge to protect us, but they make excuses to believe his lies. There's no reason to, oh, well, his parole guideline was a year ago, so he's over that already, you know? Haha, let's reward him. Why? I'll tell you why. They have an agenda to empty their prisons. They like to tweet. You can go to the parole board members' X accounts where they're tweeting about how great the progressive Department of Corrections, Connecticut, department is. There, wow, we're so progressive. We have lower incarceration rates than Louisiana. Ha ha! Look at what great we're doing with our programs. And it's like, no, you fools, you're just releasing everybody out into the streets. And then when they get revoked, it doesn't show up in your numbers as a fail. You still get to say, this is our DOC working. This is just proof, what we just saw here, of how dangerous they are. I would say, parole board members, why don't you let him babysit your kid, huh? You think that he made it up? Why don't you have him babysit your grandchild? But we all know you would never in a billion years take that chance. Because deep down, they have to know he's guilty. They have to know it. How do you release him? Forget, forget protecting the community. Forget that he's not rehabilitated. He doesn't check a box, right? He's still dangerous. He's not rehabilitated. He's in denial. There's no retribution. There is nothing. There's no boxes that are checked. He hasn't even served his time yet. He was sentenced to 20 years. 20 years. Look. I'll show you what Holly put in here. This doc. You see this? 20 years. Suspended after 5, probation 10. You know what's crazy is that he didn't even get the 10-year minimum that he could have gotten for doing it to a 9-year-old. And that's because, the DAs, they do manipulation. They're like, well, you'll plead to a different charge so you don't get the 10-year minimum. They go out of their way to call they will call the accuser a liar by letting him plead. And I know that the accusers, they have no idea what's going on here, but I just put 2 and 2 together. If it happened from 9 to 12, the minimum he was facing was 10 years. But they say, no, you know what? We'll give you the plea deal. We'll say it only started when she was 10. Let's just take a full year away out of the picture so that we can give you less time. It's insane. But this is why we do this. This is why we do this.
I get abused here by the COs every day or every other day. They talk down on us. They think they better than us. You know what I'm saying? They verbally abuse us. That makes us a victim. Only because they don't put their hands on us, and they do sometimes.
Okay.
You know, they don't say that. But y'all see, let me talk. You talk, let me talk. You know what I mean? Like, I've done programs here that I've done all the programs to comply. You know what I mean? Like,
This all happened on a sunny Sunday afternoon. People were out making those last-minute trips to the grocery store ahead of the Super Bowl. Now, today, police are crediting the customers in this lot because they say if it wasn't for them, the whole thing could have been a lot worse. Body camera footage shows the moments a West Hartford police officer got out of his cruiser with his hand out and is attacked by a man police identified as 39-year-old Samuel Rivas of Hartford.
Boss. Relax.
The video goes on to show the officer and a Good Samaritan struggle with Rivas for over a minute before cuffing his hands behind his back.
High on PCP? I swear. And in a situation like that, yeah, I would help too. If we know that, yeah, this guy's out here and it doesn't matter who the person is, he's just attacking anybody.
But that's only part of the danger that unfolded in this West Hartford Price Right parking lot on Super Bowl Sunday. Police say Rivas assaulted several customers and knocked an elderly woman to the ground, hitting her in the head before later admitting to police he was high on PCP.
Very scary. They're very scary because we not feel safety going nowhere. It's like, the people need to be more careful.
Witnesses told police Rivas was acting irrationally and punching cars. He's facing a host of charges, including assault on an officer and an elderly person and reckless endangerment. That elderly woman did suffer a cut to the head and some bruising, but we're told that she did not require hospitalization. Rivas, meanwhile, is being held on a $250,000 bond. I'm Samaya Hernandez in Hartford, Connecticut's news station.
He was sentenced to 30 months on 12/8 of 2023. And here we are in March of 2025 and up for parole. I'll unpack it with more details at the end.
Samuel Rivas, 355-276.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Samuel Rivas, 355-276. He is serving a sentence of 6 years, executed suspended after serving 30 months, followed by 5 years probation for assault on public safety, assault second, victim elderly or other, and 2 counts of illegal operation of a motor vehicle under the influence of alcohol or drugs. It is unclear as to whether he has to register as a sex offender from a previous offense. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of March 28th, 2025. There is no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows he has completed the short track sex offender program, voices, and tier 2. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score falls within the high range of risk for recidivism. Utilizing the static 99R, the offender's overall score for sexual offense recidivism falls within the high range. Mr. Rivas, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
Well, being incarcerated and being sober, I realized that I did stuff that I was wrong of doing. And being incarcerated, I just worked on steps of, changing. And, if I do go home on parole, I'm going to seek help for mental health and psychological stuff I've been going through in my Hartford County. I changed. I'm a changed person. I'm not. I've done stuff that mistakes and stuff like that, but I'm just looking for an opportunity to go home and raise my kids and be a better person. Be a productive member of society.
Thank you, Mr. Rivas. This is have you been before parole before, or just
No.
probation? Okay,
This is probation. This is
just
my
probation.
first. Yeah,
Okay.
this is my first time.
So what we do is we've read about your background, what's brought you to this incarceration, what you've done since you've been in. And based upon that, we have some questions, and then we'll get to determine whether you're suitable for parole and give you an answer. Okay?
Yeah, I'm just a little
Okay.
nervous. I've never been
Okay.
through this before.
All right. Basically what we do, this isn't about whether we like you or not. This is about what's in front of us.
Yeah.
Right? And I'll tell you that what's in front of me doesn't look good at all. Okay. The PCP use and the assaultive behavior, and the operating under the influence, which PCP, you know that there's nothing good that ever happens on PCP. You have to, right?
Right.
And that's the thing. And to get a suitability for parole, we have to get to a place where we believe that if you're released, you're not going to offend again.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
I'm not gonna. I'm taking the steps for, and I realize that PCP is something that I do work on, and I'm not going to use anymore, because if I wasn't on PCP, I wouldn't be incarcerated right now, and I realized that. And that was that's like one of my favorite drugs that I was always taking, since I was a kid. I've been using PCP since I was like 15, 16 years old, and the outcomes hasn't been good for me. I always end up in incarceration, and like, I'm just tired of coming to jail because of PCP.
Mhm.
Like that day that the incident happened, I was so stressed out and stuff. I didn't know what to do. So my coping skill was smoking PCP, and then I don't remember anything that happened. I was hallucinating that day. I don't remember anything that happened. I'm not a person that abuse people. I like helping people out. I'm a certified mechanic, and
I
I'm a people
100%
person,
believe that. I 100% believe that. Okay. But the thing is that you used PCP, and that's what happened. Right.
Yeah. But if y'all give me, if y'all give me a chance to prove myself to y'all, like if y'all do let me go home, that I will try to find like a drug program or anything to show that I'm ready to give that life up. And I've been ready to give that life. I've been locked up for 2 years, and I was around PCP in county and other jails, and I didn't use because I'm done with that. I'm no more with that,
So where I'm at with this and what I've read, okay, your end of sentence is in July.
Yeah.
That's correct. And then you're going to go out to 5 years on probation.
Mm-hmm.
And that probation, being in one place with one officer, dealing with your case, for me, it's the best scenario, right? Because rather than dealing with a parole officer for 3 months and then going to a probation officer in dealing with the kinds of things that you need to deal with, that transition from one to the other isn't going to be a great thing for you. The Tier 2 program, you gleaned some good stuff, you learned some good stuff in there, or you learned some stuff that you already knew?
I learned some stuff that I already knew from the past of, I've been in inpatients before.
Yep.
And the new stuff I learned, I always try to go back to the coping skills, but sometimes I relapse because, we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I'll get so stressed out, I'll relapse because I don't have a sponsor or anything to help me, and
so that would be a good thing to get, right?
Yeah.
And another good thing to get, kind Counselor Rex there knows how to get in touch with CCAR.
Yeah.
And
I'm
they
trying
deal with co-occurring stuff. So you might want to talk to Rex about that so that you can get help on the way out the door. I mean, that's important because if you use again, where are you going to be?
in jail.
Sitting right back there again. You don't want to do that, right? So
No.
now's the decision that you need to make to go get help. Right?
Right.
And the thing is when you smoke, there's an assault to on an elderly person. It's like we do things that we're not proud of, right? That's not who you are. You just said it, right?
Right.
The only way you're not going to do that is by getting help so that you don't do that. Right? I mean, I don't need to really go into much more. You know where I'm coming from. I really do wish you well, and I want you to get out there and be successful. But it counts on you asking for the help you need.
I have been, I got, for Thursday, I got to see Rex for car, I think, the car program. And so I could get help if I do EOS, I already have something going on because I've been planning this for a while,
Yeah.
Because I feel like honestly, I'm not gonna get parole. I know you're not gonna parole me. So, that's how I already feel. I already know that, and because of this case. But even if y'all don't parole me, it doesn't mean like I'm not looking to change. I'm not trying to bullshit none of y'all because I'm an honest person. I did my mistakes and I'm paying for it now.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And
I hear you. Take the help that Rex is trying to give you.
yeah,
Okay.
Always
Any
do.
questions?
Yeah.
Any questions?
I don't have questions, but I do feel that I have a need to comment on a couple of things, Mr. Rivas. Because when I review your interview with the parole officer, I want you to think about some of these answers that you gave her. Because it will make or break how you do in the community. So you took the Tier 2 program and you said it was not informative. We get people, hear me out. We get people all the time that have done lots of inpatient programs, outpatient programs, but you get out of it what you put into it. You should be able to walk away with something new. You should be able to have something from that program, not it wasn't informative. And when you do programs like the Voices program and you say they couldn't relate to your city life, I'm going to guess that probably 75% of the people that are incarcerated live in the cities. And take these programs, let me finish, and then you say you're the victim, because you're incarcerated. It's not easy to be incarcerated, but the Voices wants you to think about who's affected by your actions. Even somebody that sells drugs has victims. So, I'm happy to hear what you have to say, but when I read statements like that, it raises concerns for me about your thinking and how you're processing the events that brought you here today.
Yeah. But like the Voices program, that teacher, he was against, but like he was always against like the city people. You know what I'm saying? He like I couldn't agree with some of his stuff. You know what I'm saying? And the victims, I am a victim because I got molested and I got raped. I'm a victim. We all victims. Well, I don't know about y'all, but I'm a victim. I put myself as a victim because I went through that. I get abused here by the COs every day or every other day. They talk down on us. They think they better than us. You know what I'm saying? They verbally abuse us. That makes us a victim. Only because they don't put their hands on us, and they do sometimes.
Okay.
You know, they don't see that. But y'all let me talk. Y'all, you talk, let me talk.
You are trash, Lindsay. You are trash.
You know what I mean? Like, I've done programs here that I've done all the programs to comply. You know what I mean? Like, it was good to if I would have got to go home, but I got 120 days left.
You're right.
That's nothing.
Right.
You know, that's nothing.
Compared to
I've
what
done
you've
that 4
already
times
served,
already.
it's not a lot. But I feel like things you should think about. That's all. Because really,
I always think about it.
Okay, but you're 41 years old. Now's the time to make that change, right?
Yes, it is.
You, like you said yourself, you've got a lot of issues in your past that you need to come to terms with. And so maybe therapy is a good place for you to start, right? Smoking PCP just makes you think crazy thoughts and do crazy things. So now's the time to turn it all around. That's all I'm saying, is to think outside the box a little bit.
No, it is true. I'm over with smoking PCP.
Yeah.
If you are an alcoholic or were an alcoholic, you are an alcoholic today.
I'm done. I wouldn't be in this situation if I wasn't smoking PCP.
I hope so. I've supervised people in the community, and when they use that stuff, it's all bets are off, right? You do things that you never thought in 100 years that you do. Yeah. So, I felt it's important because we want you to do well, right? Nobody wants to have you back in jail. You do well, the community's safe, you're successful. It's a win-win all the way around. So I just give you a little food for thought with some of those answers.
Yeah, like I was just speaking from the heart, And
we see a lot.
We appreciate it.
We see a lot of people turn their lives around. So it's on you. So best of luck to you.
Yeah.
All right. Have nature and circumstances occur.
And what was the second one?
Sorry, with that only one,
Just nature and circumstances.
right?
Yeah. And inadequate evidence of offender change.
Okay. Regarding Samuel Rivas, 355-276, I move to deny parole for the following reasons: nature and circumstances of the current offense and inadequate evidence of offender change. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. And parole for Mr. Rivas is denied, and we hope that he goes out and gets the help that he needs.
This concludes the parole hearing for Samuel Rivas, 355-276.
All right, and what do you think? Do you think that he is ready to change? Do you think that he's hit his rock bottom? We have seen parole hearings where I kind of would feel, okay, maybe this is rock bottom, but I don't know. I didn't get that vibe. Sadly, I did. I mean, it still felt like he's blaming everybody else to me, and that he's not doing what he should. It's like, imagine being locked up, and it's like, maybe you would throw yourself into the programs, but it's just not there. We've seen where sometimes it is, and in this case, it's not. And I don't have much information to share with you, for example, why he's a high risk to recidivate from the sexual static 99 thing, right? Did we hear them say that? I mean, he does have some scary things in his record. He has, right before this happened, April 2022, he was caught exposing himself in a busy intersection. That's here in the article that Holly provided. And he wasn't just exposing himself, he was exposing himself and doing it. And that's always scary. I mean, now, is it just the PCP? I mean, yes, PCP, that will make you do crazy things. I mean, it's like all the crazy footage that we see. There's you can be messed up, you can be on this, you can be on that, but then there's PCP. It's always another level of crazy. And maybe he's not, maybe it's just that, as a what was it? Principal Mackey would say, drugs are bad, right? I'm sorry, okay. I'm a South Park person. I'm sorry to give it away like that. I know. The problem with bringing up South Park is either you're into South Park and you think it's funny, or you don't at all, and you're like, that's just, don't do that again, man. That's the problem. Look, I think they're clever. If you've never seen South Park, it's worth giving a try. They are remarkably smart. You have to put the cartoon thing away. But here we are, and his record is not fun. It's like, let me share with you what Holly showed. It's just like, it's not cute. Like they said, what, he's 42 years old. He has here, it's where is it? Well, there's one, risk of injury to a child. I don't know what that's about, right? Maybe that's, I don't know, that's 20, offense date 4/5/2019. That's always scary, right? I mean, it could be anything. Risk of injury to child could be, driving without a seatbelt on, or but child without a seatbelt on your child, but I don't know. I don't know if we can give him that credit, right? Public indecency, we spoke about that. Interference with an officer, we saw that on the body cam footage. He has another public indecency. Interference with an officer. Assault of an elderly victim. That was part of that same offense that we saw. Illegal operating vehicle under the influence. And with these things is that they continue to give suspended sentences. Look, suspended after 2 days probation, suspended sentence, suspended sentence, suspended sentence. And it's like, no kidding. If you keep giving suspended sentences, if you catch all these felonies and offenses and you let someone out after like a few days in jail, what do you think is going to happen? Everybody should watch this. Everybody who is saying you need to have later on crime bonds and all, it doesn't benefit anybody. You go into jail because you're driving, you're exposing yourself, and you're on PCP, and it's like, what do you think's going to happen when you let him out a day later? Wow, he offended again. Who would have thought? And man, look, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't claim to know the answer. I think that sometimes they're too strict and sometimes they're not too strict, and it's just but we never can find a good median. It's always like the pendulum is swinging on one extreme or the other extreme, never some common sense stuff. And maybe we just need some common sense stuff, and I don't know how we'll get there. But anyways, that's enough of my little rant. With that, I'll let you go.
I get abused here by the COs every day or every other day. They talk down on us. They think they better than us. You know what I'm saying? They verbally abuse us. That makes us a victim. Only because they don't put their hands on us, and they do sometimes.
Okay.
They don't see that. But y'all see, let me talk. You talk, let me talk.